All right, good morning again, Mayor and Commissioners. We've got three updates for you today. We've got an update on the Parks millage work that we've been doing over the course of the last year. And we've got an update on our Parks Master Plan and the progress that has been made in the 6 months since it was formally adopted on June 13th. And then we've got an update on our forestry work. We want to share with you a little bit of an update on our Priority 1 tree work that has already begun and share with you some progress on work moving forward for our Priority 2 work and a more sustainable forestry division within the Parks and Recreation Department. So with that, I will start with our Parks millage expenditure review for fiscal years 14 from the beginning through this last fiscal year 17. A lot of this work could not be done, of course, without the partners that we've had in place. This year we've rolled in a few other partners that are new to the organization, particularly disability advocates of Kent County. They've been significant partners with us. They were part of our master planning process, and they've been a part of some of the work coming out of that master plan process as well. So we're pleased to have them and several others that continue to support our work moving forward. This last year, we opened 6 new projects that were at Camelot Park, Campbell Park, Dickinson, Douglas, Mary Waters, and Mulek. There were a number of new amenities that we included within each of those parks that include new splash pads, new restroom facilities, new playground equipment, and as you can see from some of these photographs, the neighborhood support for all of this work is growing, and with each of these grand openings and groundbreakings, we continue to see new faces and a lot of neighborhood support for this work. So that's really impressive, and I think a testament to the work that is being done. We broke ground on 4 new projects this last year as well. They were at Aberdeen Park, Alexander Park, Ball Perkins Park, and Huff Park. A significant number of work that is going into each of those projects. New playground amenities, again, splash pads up at Aberdeen Park, and building in significant connections and connectivity to our natural resources and natural areas within the system as well, particularly at Ball Perkins Park, which is a large, very large natural area in the heart of our city, and of course Huff Park as well. We had a lot of fun in the lower left-hand corner there, tearing out the old boardwalk with the mayor this summer, and I'm pleased to say that demolition of the old boardwalk is now complete, and construction is beginning this winter on the new boardwalk and is set to be completed this spring. Our community input is one thing that we continue to excel at. We continue to see growing numbers of participation. The interest is growing. I think as we do more of this work across the city, the word is catching on, and people are wanting to be more engaged, which is really remarkable. We've been trying a little bit of a new format over the course of the last year, where we've, when the weather is allowing it, holding some of these public meetings outside in the parks. That is a natural way for us to begin getting more interest in drawing people that are out in their parks anyway after dinner and in the summertime months. But it's also a really great way for us to really be a part of that conversation in the park and to look at those park amenities with the neighbors and with the community, so that we're talking about the same thing and looking at the same things at the same time. We've also been making quite a bit of headway, I think, down in the Martin Luther King Park neighborhood. That is a neighborhood that has been significantly engaged, and I continue to be impressed by their involvement. There is certainly some hesitation to begin with, but as those conversations get going and as we embark on some of the opportunities that exist within that park and within that neighborhood, these conversations are very, very robust, and they're very meaningful as well, which is making for some good work in this area. So a little bit of a brief summary of our 17 projects, fiscal year 17 projects. Aberdeen Park is one of those. This is a park where we took an opportunity to build off of some of those master plan themes that were a part of that process, where we are building in more recognition as a part of our natural area and our heritage and our culture. And so this is a splash pad that is more than just your typical splash pad. It is one that includes some elements of our local ecology and our local history here in the state of Michigan. So it's an opportunity for children to be outside having fun in this water amenity, but also an opportunity for them to be learning alongside of that play experience as well. Down in Alexander Park, we've not only built in some new play equipment and new play spaces, but worked very closely with the community on an opportunity for them to really kind of get their handprints on this park project, and had the neighbors, children, families participate in a tile project where they were able to hand paint some tiles of their own that will go up on a entry pillar next to the street entrance for this park. A significant opportunity, a great opportunity for folks to get their fingerprints on this park and leave a mark in history for this park improvement. Up at Ball Perkins Park, this is where we built in a new trail connection for one that didn't exist in the past. As mentioned, this is a large, expansive natural area within the heart of our city, and we are now just embarking on some more significant access to this natural area and within this natural area. The trail begins just at the edge of Ball Perkins Community Gardens off of Perkins Avenue and runs for about 3/4 of a mile into the park and overlooks a marshy area within the park. Future plans and future phases of work will include more trail connectivity, and we are also in discussions with the Neighborhood Association and local partners on the possibility of building in some mountain bike trails as well in the future, and I think this is a significant opportunity. This has been a hard conversation for the neighborhood, but I think a really robust one as well, and through these conversations I think there is a greater understanding of what these opportunities are and what they might look like for this park in the future. This is an image of the new trail that was just completed within Ball Perkins. You can see great opportunity for folks to be a part of this natural area and experience a lot of the beauty that we have right here in the heart of Grand Rapids. As mentioned, Huff Park is underway. Demolition was just completed. In addition to the boardwalk that we're building out here in partnership with MD&R grant funds to help leverage park millage funds, we are renovating the playground space within this park as well. I think the neat thing that we are doing here is recognizing that natural presence of Huff Park and the importance that it plays in the city of Grand Rapids. So this play structure that was built into Huff Park is not just your typical plastic and metal play structure. It is actually built out of wood and wood elements. Again, to really reflect on that natural environment in which we are here with Huff Park. Great aerial shot of Huff Park there to demonstrate and accentuate the importance of this natural environment within the city. Then at Richmond Park, we made some significant improvements, again in partnership in leveraging some MD&R grant funds for this work. We built a new accessible fishing structure overlooking the Richmond Park Pond, and we also made some improvements to the shelter structure out there as well. So we don't have the crummy old sort of boarded up windows with the sort of that jail mesh over the front of them. We actually have a nice roll-up garage door that allows some light to come in when the door is down, but in the summer months when that weather is nice, that door can be rolled up and it becomes a great indoor-outdoor space with that terrace that overlooks the Richmond Park Pond. We always look at the analysis of how these dollars are being spent. So if you recall back in 2013 when the millage was passed, there were millage investment guidelines that were set out for us to adhere to. And 45 to 55% of the $3.5 million that we are spending every year is meant to go into rehab and repair of existing park amenities. 25 to 35% is meant for new park improvements, so new splash pads maybe where some have not yet existed in the past. And then 15 to 20% of those millage dollars are designated for pool operations. So then you see in the right-hand column, fiscal year 14 through fiscal year 17, you can see how we have been spending these dollars to date. So within that rehab and repair category, we're right in the middle, 50.42%. For park improvements, again, right in the middle of that sweet spot where we're supposed to be, 30.7%, and with pool operations, we're at about 18.8%. And my hat's off to Carrie Enriquez, our project manager within Parks and Recreation. We would not be hitting these targets without her diligent work and constant tracking of this information. This is a pie chart showing those expenditures to date, fiscal year 14 through 17 this last year. So rehab and repair is the green part of this pie chart. That 50.42%, you can see we've roughly expended $5.6 million for rehab and repair of existing park amenities. In the orange, park improvements, those new amenities that we're building into our park system over the last 4 years. equates to, again, that 30.7% or roughly $3.4 million worth of expenditure. And then in pool operations, that 18.8% is roughly equates to the $2.1 million of investment in our pool operations to keep those pools open and operational. This is a bar chart showing our total millage investment as of June 30th, 2017. So you can see that we've touched a significant number of parks. We've got 74 in the system. To date, we've invested in a little over 40 of those 74 parks. So we're making good progress. You can see some of those expenditures. Campbell Park being a large one there. That, again, is a reminder where we demolished an old pool and built a new splash pad to replace that pool. Martin Luther King Park, we are making significant investment and planning for more here in the future. Early investment has included sport court resurfacing, basketball court resurfacing, some mechanical and HVAC repairs to the lodge, and some pool repairs that were necessary as well. Then across the board, you can see we're making incremental progress with those dollars that we do have available, making upgrades to playground equipment and trail connectivity, and making trail repairs where necessary in our park system as well. I had mentioned the importance of MDNR grants in some of these projects. That continues to be an important opportunity for us moving forward. We do intend to apply for some more grants in the spring of this coming year in 2018. Those are dollars that help these millage dollars go just that much further. So you can see the millage investment is shown in the blue on this bar chart. Those green bars on this chart are the leveraged funds. So those include funds like the MDNR grants. CDBG dollars have been an important piece of this story as well. They have helped us go miles further in projects like Mary Waters Park, where a bulk of that project work was funded by CDBG dollars, helping us to build those restroom facility upgrades, those splash pad upgrades, and playground upgrades as well. And every dollar that we leverage for millage allows those millage dollars to be spread even further across the city where they're most greatly needed. So all in, about $10 million of leveraged funds. Yes.
Thank you. I'm sorry to cut you off before you were totally done. I want to just make a public comment. I don't know if my colleagues have heard this, but I have received feedback from a number of folks about Veterans Park, sharing their gratitude for the work done there. And so I just want to say, I know your department worked really hard on that, and it took a lot of work in partnership with the DDA, but also our veteran groups in town. So I just want to say thank you for that.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you. We had a great contractor that we worked with, and again, Carol Enriquez, our project manager, I think did a great job managing that work and bringing it in right on time, yes. Even despite the weather and the darker days.
For Veterans Day. So, and thank you, Commissioner Allen, for representing us there. So, thank you. Yes.
So taking a quick look forward for what we've got, 2018, we're planning for some significant investments in parks like Bike Park down in the lower southwest corner of the city, Cambridge Park, Chesborough, Coit. As I mentioned, Martin Luther King Park, we have been talking with them extensively about some more investment directly in the park and less mechanically focused. We're talking about improvements at Mooney Park, a small little park on the south side of the city, Ottawa Hills. We are looking at Ottawa Hills as being home to one of Grand Rapids' very first fully universally accessible play spaces, so we're very excited about that opportunity. And that's where I mentioned that partnership with the Disability Advocates of Kent County has been so important and valuable for us. They've been coming and being a part of our regular meetings, guiding us through the very technical aspects of the ADA code and making sure that this is truly one of our fully universal play spaces. Yes.
Is this tied to the partnership with GRPS that happened a couple years ago? Okay.
Yes, it is.
Great.
Yep. So this, yep.
The one,
No, it was just the property at Ottawa Hills High School. Remember that?
yeah. Because Ken O'Shea also has a universal playground, right? That from several years ago.
Not part of the school.
At the school,
It
yeah.
was part of the school. So, yes.
Thank you.
We are also looking at improvements to Plaster Creek Family Park. This is a great partnership with GRPS. We have been coordinating with them on public outreach. We've also been working with our community's children, engaging youth from the neighborhood in this park project as well, and really helping them look through our lens and how we approach work, and vice versa. We're really looking through their eyes as well in terms of how we think about making improvements to these park spaces. Crescent Park will be seeing some improvements, Louis Campaw, and Monument Park as well. Then in 2019, we're looking at some of our downtown parks, again in partnership with the DDA and other businesses within the downtown core, and looking at more neighborhood parks as well, including KJC, Reservoir, Foster Park, Lincoln Place, and Peckage Park as well. You can see some images on the bottom of this screen where we've made some improvements. You may have heard a little bit too about the table tennis amenities that we built into some of our parks this year as well, which have been wildly popular and successful. Then in 2020 and 21, you can see the list of projects that we've got moving here as well. Again, the goal over the 7-year period of the millage investment is to touch every single one of our parks. We will be doing that, and we will continue to monitor and maintain those millage dollars, ensuring that they're spent within those categories and percentages that were set out in the guidelines at the beginning of this millage. That is our millage update. I will shift into our master plan update unless you have any specific questions on the millage.
Nope. But I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you about 9 minutes.
9 minutes.
Because we have another presentation.
You got it. And we've got Forestry too, so do I have 9 minutes for both?
I only have Parks and Rec department update, and then I have a presentation on MLBE policy. So
I have forestry on mine.
Forestry and tree maintenance are part of them.
all right, so yes, 9 minutes then.
We're gonna really haul on this one, all right? So, yeah, get ready. If I can find how to full screen mode. All right. Master plan goals, connected network, healthy community, neighborhood investment, sustainable system. I'm really going to move through this stuff quickly. I just wanted to highlight with you where we've been and where we're headed. In terms of that healthy community goal, we invested, if you remember, in some new stand-up paddle boards and kayaks this year. We didn't have a chance to really get them on the water in terms of any programming, but we hosted an event this fall that exposed the neighborhood in Richmond Park to these new amenities and opportunities, and I've got to say they were really well received, and folks are very interested in the opportunities coming forward. We've made investment in some new spin bikes as well, and are developing new recreation programs, again, to get that healthier activity within the city of Grand Rapids. We are also experimenting with pilot nights where folks can come free of charge to experience new recreational offerings that we are providing, and it's really an opportunity for us to gauge what will be most popular and then deliver to the community what it is that they're asking for. And we've seen hundreds of people turn up for these events on weeknights as they're hosted. These are the improvements that we've been making to Ball Perkins Park that really connect. That connectivity is the important piece here, and getting people out healthy and active in their community. In terms of a sustainable system, this is a way for us to cut costs and a way for us to, again, leverage limited funding that we have available to us. This last year, in partnership with our community's children, we hired 6 Green Team youth in the Martin Luther King neighborhood. These kids were involved in helping us do some minor maintenance and operational things within our park system. It's a great exposure for them in terms of jobs that are available in the future. It's a huge opportunity for us to leverage those limited dollars that we have in terms of how we care for our system. We also were able to do this as well with Wege Foundation support in hiring a University of Michigan Natural Areas Resource Fellow. This individual helped us connect to the neighborhood and connect to our natural areas and resources and begin thinking about ways in which we deliberately put forward a plan in the future in caring for those spaces across the city. Marketing and communications is a big piece for us. Over the course of the last year, we've been working with GVSU and their internship program, and we've had a very strong individual in marketing and communications work with us in terms of growing our messaging on social media platforms and growing our messaging in terms of consistency and brand. That has been significant for us, and we've been able to grow our base of resident participation across the city. Looking for new revenue sources, we are working in partnership with a food truck group and bringing Food Truck Fridays. This last summer, we brought them to Riverside Park. Again, wildly successful. I think this is a great test pilot for us, and as we think about ways in which we can bring other concessionaires to our park system and really begin to enliven our park system. Initiatives moving forward in the next 6 months. As you know, we've been looking at the Colebrook site as a part of the master plan in re-envisioning the indoor use of that space for indoor recreation, and just as importantly, looking at the outdoor space along that riverfront as a community waterfront terrace. It's a place that is dreamed of and being envisioned as a place where people can come and be a part of that waterfront experience without having to spend money on a drink, without having to spend money on food, but to be in a healthy place and in a very active way as well. We are, again, adding new programs gauged on public input and public participation. A couple of new offerings that we're talking about this next year are eco-play experiences and classes that we'll offer in partnership with some local providers. This will expose kids to our natural resources and natural areas and teach them about them as well. And it's really a great way for us to begin leveraging opportunities like the Canoe Mobile event that we had approved this morning with the fiscal committee. That will be coming in May of 2018. We have also built a new database. We know that, Mayor, one of your priorities is looking at adding park space across the city. We are being very deliberate and intentional about finding some ways in which we can make information available to you and to the Park Advisory Board to help us make decisions about where we add parkland in the future. So we have a database that we are tracking on a monthly basis that looks at properties that are for sale. It takes into consideration existing parkland that we have within our system, in addition to existing school parklands that we are deliberately building into the new joint use agreement with GRPS, and looking at those voids that still exist across the city and identifying ways in which we can begin to fill those voids through new property acquisitions in the future. I had mentioned the first universally accessible playground being planned for Ottawa Hills. This will be a great template for us to think about new play spaces across the city as we're making reinvestment in our playground spaces with those millage dollars. And we're also being deliberate about building in some educational opportunities and learning spaces within our parks as well, so that GRPS can come and be there with their teachers and their children, and so parents can have a place to be teaching their children about these natural areas as well. Starting in January, we will be hosting live our full recreation guide. This will be a digital version of a printed guide that we would like to have in the future, but I think the new formatting, again, that brand, that consistency, that messaging will be very clear. We've been testing this format with different classes that we're offering currently, and it's a format that is very understandable. It's a quick way for people to get information and has been proving to be very successful for us. So we're excited about this piece as well. And then in terms of that sustainable system, we couldn't be doing this work without the support from Friends of Grand Rapids Parks organization. They continue to help build a new base of stewards for our park system, stewards that are planting trees, stewards that are caring for those trees, and stewards that are beginning to help us identify ways in which we can care for those natural resources in the city. And then, of course, the golf outing that we hosted last year was a great opportunity for us to generate some significant revenue to the tune of $20,000 that we are now using to, this last summer, we had a youth camp that we hosted in partnership with some local providers in the neighborhood, some youth camp experiences that allowed children to be healthy and active within their local park system. And not be left to their own devices, if you will, otherwise. We are looking at hosting another golf outing in June of this coming year. Appreciate Commissioner Lanier's support and Commissioner Allen's support on that as well. Again, this will be a great opportunity for us to not only generate some excitement and continue that enthusiasm and support for the Indian Trails Golf Course and the investment that we've made there in that neighborhood, but a great opportunity for us to continue building new recreational opportunities across the city with the funds that are raised through that event. That is the master plan update. Nice. And I'm going to ask Joe to come up and get ready for our forestry update. Okay.
Commissioner, Mayor, because this was included as one of the priorities that was discussed as the last budget work section that we had. Joe is just going to give an overview because of the sake of time.
Okay. All right. I'm going to try to move us along because I see AJ and Patty in the back, and I want to make sure that we give them an opportunity. And we really need to get into closed session by noon. I would say, to give us time before economic development project team.
Well, good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'll be very quick here. Over the last month and a half, we've been working very diligently on an A3 that addresses two things. Phase 2 of the project that was identified with the inventory, which is all the priority 2 tree removals and trims that have been recommended. And the second part of that is a sustainable forestry model. And what you can see in this map right here, or graph, is over the next 5 years, we'll be shifting into that sustainable forestry model. Currently, we have 12 employees in forestry. We believe that in the long run, the sustainable number is somewhere closer to 17, but that is a staged effort. And what we were looking to do over the next 5 years is to address the priority 2 removals and trims in the same model that we're using for priority 1s, which is underway, and we are actually at 29% of our trims done and 14% of the removals done so far, and we're on track to get that done by that 6-month period. But that model of a private and public partnership in order to address this is really our way of transforming forestry, what municipal forestry is moving forward. And so what you see here in that analysis is that as we're moving into the phase 2 process, we're actually incorporating sustainable elements, which would be updating inventory in real time as we do that, making sure that stumps are ground when removals are done so that we can keep those call volumes down on things like that, and also doing young tree pruning and, of course, planting. Those are things that we're moving forward with in that sustainable issue. And then as the inventory becomes updated, then we're recognizing the proper time and cycle that those trees would be addressed moving forward, moving it from a reactive system that's call-based into a proactive system so that we're actually eliminating priority 2 and 3 prunes. We're just addressing the tasks that we need to address. And so the second, this next page kind of looks at the tasks that are involved in forestry and how we break that crew up. And what the bottom line is that we're looking for an additional $500,000 so a year in our budget in order to accomplish that. And you'll see in this layout that contractors play a significant role in that, and as that workload is done, then we're actually shifting that, still having contractor support, but having staff in-house as well. And you can see there's a couple capital investments in order to accomplish that goal. More than happy to expound on this more as needed. This is just a general overview on the plan that we have come up with.
So I know Commissioner Kelly serves on the Urban Forest Committee, and I know that this was discussed and vetted through that body. Do you want to add anything?
Well, I just, I want to thank you for all the work you've done on this A3 and your team as well, but also for the work that I know you're doing around communications on a regular basis, including what we'll soon be able to see, which would be an interactive map so people can track the priority 1 and 2 trees. It's pretty amazing. The Urban Forestry Committee will be looking at it and making comments this Thursday, and I'm sure hopefully we'll have a presentation on that as well.
Yes, yeah. So we're almost ready to launch that. And we also have an update page on our website that is just giving those updates, and it sends people to the map and tries to answer as many questions as possible. And we're also integrated with 301 with our CityWorks work orders, so they can actually look and see what contractors are working where and what the time frame is on those contracts. And we're trying to get, as well as sending out postcards and signage as to the work that's being done.
Which is huge because, as you know, we were all getting calls about these priority 1 trees, and I think you've all noticed that they've fallen off. And I also wanted to just mention that the funding for this is coming from the refuse fund and some insurance proceeds, just so we know that it's not interfering with other priorities that we have around policing or affordable housing and so on. That funds come from that source.
Correct.
Yeah, I think I don't know if you all received any calls, but I know last week when we had the high winds, I had a couple folks thank me that the trees that they were concerned about had already been removed. So I think that's a real testament to the work and how quickly you were able to get out there with some of these high priority trees. And then obviously, commissioners, this will be a conversation that's integrated into our upcoming budget, I'm assuming. Okay, so again, this is a nice update, thank you. But again, this will be a conversation that we have moving forward as well.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, so I thank you both for the presentation. Appreciate you speeding it along because of time. And now I'm going to invite AJ and Patty to come up and present on the proposed updates to Administrative Policy 04-01. And I will ask you all to be concise, and I'll give you 15 minutes. Hopefully we'll have a little time for questions.
I don't think we'll need the whole 15 minutes, Mayor.
Oh, great. So we can use the restroom
So
before
you
we go
guys
into
can have a
executive
restroom break. I don't want to keep you here forever. Thank you for this time. And today we're just going to talk very briefly about some updates that our office has come up with to our Administrative Policy 0401, which is our micro-local business policy. The policy was included in the information that was provided to you, but just to give you a little bit of background, in 2009, this policy was put into effect. And we like to always tie what we're doing into some type of federal regulation. So we looked at the SBA regulations for small businesses and thought, okay, we can do a 9-year graduation period for our micro-local business program. That 9 years is coming up, and about 85% of our micro-local businesses, if we don't make some changes to our program, will be graduated out of our program. And the micro-local business program is the cornerstone of our Equal Business Opportunity Program, which is for goods and services and construction. So we looked at and talked to not only the Monday group, but talked to a number of our contractors to talk about, okay, is this working for you, and what can we do to help you in the future? And we came up with, number one, doing a change to the policy to allow continuation of the micro-local business program that allows our current micro-local businesses to recertify. They still have to comply with all of the requirements of being a micro-local business, but every 5 years they have to recertify and tell us, what have you done? How has your business grown? And what is the capacity that your business has currently? So we're looking at an expansion to the program that's going to help not only our micro-local businesses, but also help our majority contractors that we deal with to understand the capacity of our current businesses. And it also gives our office the opportunity to look at, okay, we've got businesses with this capacity, where do we need to really move and do some targeted recruiting and focused recruitment? That's kind of my summary of it, AJ.
Just as you look at the process for extension, it's pretty much the same process that they go to register in the program. However, to be granted an extension, you would need to have a written request from the the current owner of that business. You still will have to meet the 3-year revenue average. Those standards are set by the SBA. So we haven't moved or changed much about the program. It's really just allowing the opportunity for companies who are still growing, who are still thriving, to continue doing work with the city, and not so much a hard cutoff after 9 years. What we experienced through doing our research with local businesses, where the feds have 50 states that they can choose from when they are recruiting contractors. Our program is Kent County. So what we didn't want to do is kind of deplete this pipeline and stall the growth for some of our micro-local businesses.
All right, questions? Commissioner?
Capacity statement is a scary thing. So what can we do to ensure that this is, instead of being a way to help, that it doesn't become a way that's hindering?
That's a very good point. So what you have in front of you is an example of a capability statement that we have from one of our vendors. However, we have created a one-page template to send out for our businesses who will be reapplying. So they will have a template to build upon.
And what we really want to do is look at growth and how can we as a city encourage and expand on the growth that our micro-local businesses have had.
Mayor?
Commissioner?
Yeah, One of the things that I'd like you to consider as well is we've had lots of conversations about wages not keeping up with, housing costs and so on. And the fact that we have seen a trend in our educational community of not teaching the trades. So we don't have enough electricians, for example, here in the city. So I think that it would be worth investigating how we might be able to work with the operating engineers. They have a program that's a 4-year paid training program for internships that's in Howell, Michigan. They provide the transportation, the lodging. They pay their employees increasingly each year, and then they work to get them hired. And by the 4 years count toward vesting, and by the 5th year they are actually vested if they get a job. That's huge, and I know they've already reached out to the Urban League here in Grand Rapids. So if we're trying to do something locally on all those and hit all those issues, wages, the trades, and opportunity for our residents here in the city, this is something that I think perhaps we could open up and increase those numbers in that capacity and consider. That would mean that we'd hopefully be able to have them do some of our city road work as well.
Well, and thank you, Commissioner, and I'll have AJ follow up on that. And one of the things that the micro-local business enterprise system does is feeds into our equal business opportunity programs. And from what it sounds like the operating engineers are looking to possibly add a bid discount availability to our EBO program. So we'll have to investigate that and look at it.
Keep us informed. That would be great.
Yes,
Thank you.
absolutely.
All right, Commissioner?
Yeah, I don't want to belabor a point. Jeff and I have a lot of talks about this at Fiscal. I appreciate this work, but I see 2 tracks, right? So I see the work that you're doing in your office, but then I also see the way we do our bidding. And so, you can do all the work you want to do to get companies registered, which gives them a proper competitive advantage. But then when it comes to the bidding, that's the other piece to this that you really don't have any effect on. And, what I hear from Amy is they still struggle. They'll send out to 20 different vendors, of which, 5 are registered MBEs, but then they don't respond, and so there's still some barrier there, and I'm still trying to figure out where it is and what it is. I have some ideas of what it is, but I really still think we need to drill down in this.
Yep.
Case in point, we worked on a bid for towing, and it was a very large contract, and the same company's had it for multiple years, Merle's Towing. And when we drilled down into it, it was really a matter of, and Amy did a great job of, we could get more minority-owned, local-owned firms if we broke it down into more bite-sized pieces.
Yep.
There's the piece that you need to have a competitive company to do emergency, you're blocking the middle of a road, you need to have somebody that's that kind of capacity, but when it comes to the contract to move cars around in the city's impound lot, anybody could have that contract. So it's those kind of things that I think we really need to drill down and really need to look at. And then the last piece is there's nothing we can do about it. It is what it is until we actually prove that we're different. There's just a feeling out in the community that I'm not going to bother because the same group gets it every time anyways.
And that's one thing that there's a number of things going on, Commissioner, that one of the pieces that our office is working with is the racial equity here. And one of the things that is on my to-do list is to incorporate more of the work with purchasing and the work with engineering so that they are more on a same level in terms of what we're providing to both purchasing and providing to engineering, as well as the information that we're getting back out. So that's on our racial equity here plan. That's also on my strategic plan. So there's a number of things that are working together that I think we're going to have some really significant changes in how we do business. So,
now I'll finish.
Your eyes out for that.
Yeah, and I'll finish with this. I'm just using this as an opportunity since we're talking about this, but it needs to be talked about. Is some of the other contractors that I talk to, the problem is working with Kentwood and working with Wyoming is so much easier than working with Grand Rapids. They're already booked with Kentwood and Wyoming work that they can't even take the time to do our work. So there's obviously something wrong when they can get that kind of contract so easily.
Yeah, and the other thing, the other piece that's playing in, I'm gonna spill the beans on some stuff that's going on with budget We just met with, our REH team is helping to work through the budget process, and not only our fiscal services, but IT and facilities and fleet have both identified the purchasing process as something that they want to work on in the next fiscal year. So we'll be pulling together a team of folks to really look at both those over $10,000 bids and those under $10,000 bids to see where we have opportunity to incorporate the issue of race and equity, as well as really make sure that we're getting people through the process of this is what it takes to bid with the city, and moving people along in that way. So those are things that are on the horizon next fiscal and that will be started to work on this year.
And Commissioner, I want to thank you for your leadership in fiscal on this. And I know a number of city staff have been working on this as well. Clearly, we have a lot more work to do. And so thank you. Other questions or comments before we adjourn? All right. Thank you for your work, and thank you for the update. Appreciate it.
Yep.
All right, Commissioners, so about 3 minutes. See you down in the City Attorney's office.